what is your message to other conservative influencers, podcasters, TV hosts that they might be targeted by some of these radical groups?
Well, we have to be brave in life. In all fairness, we have a life and we have to be brave. I probably shouldn't be out here talking to you in all fairness, but we will be brave. And we have a great country. We have radical left lunatics out there, and we just have to beat the hell out of them.
So from the party, from the individual who tells a country of Democrats and progressives that have expressed basically nothing but compassion, empathy, and calls for sanity after this horrendous political violence of earlier this week, he then comes out and says, yeah, we need to beat the hell out of them. And he said that stuff for years. This is consistent. He has always been willing to dabble in calls for violence, beatings, blood, riots, insurrection, all of that. So it's not new, but one would hope that the president would go 72 hours after an assassination without calling for his political opponents to be physically assaulted. But that's unfortunately just who he is. This isn't, for all the issues I had with Joe Biden, you could rely on Joe Biden to come out after a tragedy and say something presidential. You can never expect that from Donald Trump. He is always there to pour gasoline on the flames. Now, sometimes he'll say something different. Like he said to reporters, Charlie, was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond. But he also said to beat the hell out of the leftists. So, kind of mixed messages there. And then he goes on Fox and Friends, and this is what he had to say in this critical moment.
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious and they're horrible and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone. They want open borders.
Grandpa, stay on message. You're trying to set up a fascist dictatorship, okay? You don't have to go off into the sports thing or whatever. That's for a different hateful speech. They want trans for everybody. My God, there is so little of his brain still functioning. But setting aside the insane transphobia, which obviously has been a big part of this entire thing this week, he was like Fox and Friends. Who was that? Was that Ainsley Earhardt or whatever? Is being like kind of reasonable. I mean, she's both sidesing something that is not 50-50, but at least she's both sidesing it and not just saying we need vengeance on the damn Democrats. So she's like, there's extremists on all sides. And he says, no, there aren't. There's just leftists. Right-wing radicals just want DC to be conquered by the National Guard. No. Actually, right-wing radicals sometimes, as I talked about earlier in the show, try to blow up substations because they want to spark some sort of national uprising. Sometimes they go to black churches and shoot it up because they want to start a race war. Sometimes they shoot politicians. They assassinate state representatives. Sometimes they try to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Sometimes they bash in the skull of the husband of the Speaker of the House. They weren't just concerned about crime, they were committing crimes, vicious crimes, terrorist acts, okay? But the president can't even acknowledge that. And I'm not saying like a month from now, like whatever, in the immediate aftermath, he can't hold it together to say anything other than they're vicious, they're coming for you, they're gonna try to take you out. He is clearly trying to, or at least willing to inspire acts of stochastic terrorism, Waz. That's my view, feel free to disagree, what do you think?
I mean, this is kind of been Trump's, not even kind of, it's been explicitly his MO. He's never been a moderating figure. Like the plan has always been to wave the reddest of meat possible to the base. And in a moment like this with high emotion, and an intensity of emotion, he's going to revert back to his basest instincts, which has always been, the Mexicans are coming over our borders, they're rapists, they're thieves, they're drug dealers. Like that's always been the most defining characteristic of his rhetoric. And so we shouldn't be surprised there. And you talk about Joe Biden, we were all old enough, excuse me, during 9/11 and remember George Bush came out and said, yo, this isn't about Muslims. It's a great religion. Excuse me, this isn't a time to be anti-Arab. These are great people. This is about these terrorists that went out there and did this horrible thing. Like even George Bush came out and tried to be a uniter. Donald Trump just doesn't have that instinct. This is kind of the worst thing you want Donald Trump presiding over, the idea that he should have to try to bring people together at a time of tragedy in the country.
Yeah, he's never done it before. We don't know why he would do it now. He didn't do it during COVID. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, obviously, we could dig more into like George W. Bush said that, and then he invaded a couple countries.
Well, yeah. Then he did
he did that, and but then
he did the Patriot Act. Then he did the Patriot Act. Then
But at least he did the speech. I mean,
he did.
And John McCain. Everybody remembers the moment during the town hall where the woman's like, he's a Muslim or whatever about Obama, and John McCain was like, no, he's a good person, which kind of sounds like he's implying that being a Muslim would be, but whatever. He's doing his best. He's 1,000 years old.
He's not an icky Muslim. He's a good Christian American. Yeah.
Exactly. But it was for him. It was good. We need that bare minimum, and there are some Republicans doing that. Thomas Massey criticized Trump's rhetoric.
Massey's on a heater.
Yeah, he has been. Even Gutfeld kind of tamped down initial. There are a few that are doing that, and then there's others that are just like, here's a list of the people you need to get. Nancy Mace comes out yesterday, and she's like, it looks like the shooter's a tranny or a tranny supporter. Dear God, get this woman out of office. She's absolute garbage. And by the way, that message or that belief came to you because of the reporting that we talked about, the early sign of that. And then Jordan had the update yesterday that it didn't turn out to be true. Steven Crowder, by the way, his company is now being subpoenaed by the ATF for leaking those early documents that turned out to not be accurate. And do you want to know, I'm sure many people watching this knows, do you know why that reporting came out that they thought that there was some pro-trans thing? Because the bullets were stamped with TRN. Manufacturers stamp bullets with either a symbol or letters to represent that they're the company that made the bullets. The companies are stamped by the manufacturer Turan, which says TRN. It's not trans, okay? And the thing is, it's not like these are the first bullets they've ever stamped. These are like FBI investigators that should theoretically know what that stamp means. But again, they're bringing in people with no experience who don't know anything. And so then you get the misinformation. And thankfully it was corrected relatively fast, but there's still 5 million Americans that saw that initial reporting and will believe till the day they die that it's true and this person was a trans person or supporter or whatever. And so it's misinformation and it's inspiring hatred. In that same interview, Trump was talking about Zoran Mamdani and he says, I call him my little communist. Again, we're in the immediate aftermath of an act of violence where responsible people, Bernie Sanders had a great video yesterday, is like, everybody pump the brakes on demonizing your opposition. And Trump's like, yeah, you see that goddamn Muslim, he's my little communist. You know what some people think should be done to communists in this country? And so it's just, I'm really worried, Waz, about possible acts of violence, either against Democratic representatives, against progressive pundits. Maybe they want to even the score or something. I've been worried about that. And just to have leadership that is seemingly to do the same thing you would do if you were actively trying to inspire it makes me very worried. But I'll give the final point to you.
I mean, I'm not really worried about mass acts of violence happening on both sides, but I can see Donald Trump using this as an excuse to ratchet up the police and military sort of state presence, which nobody wants. And yeah, like I said, I just can't be surprised at this point that this guy's not being a great uniter and he's doing his best, his very darndest to try to divide the country even further.
Yeah, 100%.